Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the Jade Gemini. Today I'm super excited to bring you a review of this little guy right here. This is the Sofirn HS05 EDC AA Flashlight. So today I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about what I like, what I love, what I dislike, and if it applies, what's rubbish about this little flashlight right here. Before we do that, we're going to kind of get the normalities out of the way, with first a light that a lot of people probably know the size of. This is the Reylight Mini Pineapple, now with the new tail cap. So this is a AAA light. As you can see, this light is actually shorter than that, even though it's running at AA. So it hides in the pocket quite well. Also, looking at diameter, you can see it is, of course, going to be a little bit more in diameter, but it's not too shabby. I'm putting my hands right to the edge so you can get a little bit more of a comparison. So not too bad there. Next, we're going to take a look at a tiny little light that I absolutely love. This is the, oh, look at those magnets. This is the Maker E02 II, and this is a AAA headlight lamp. Well, 90-degree lamp is what I call these because I don't really use them as headlights, but we'll get to that. But as you can see, not too much bigger. And maybe the best comparison I can make here is just the juice inside. This is a AAA. So as you can see, I mean, they've basically packed in, I mean, there's a sheet of aluminum here, so that's going to push the battery right up to here, and then here's the head of the light, right? So they haven't made any extra space that is not needed here. It's a nice little compact package. So that's sort of the size out of the way. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So before that, one thing I did want to actually say, you know, when I'm reviewing these lights, one thing that I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a series, haven't really put a name to it, but it's kind of like what options are available out there other than companies like Olight, right? Olight is a company that kind of got us all, most of us probably, into flashlights. You know, they have a big budget, great advertising team, things like that. And through that, they were the gateway drug, right? But once you start having an Olight and you buy a couple and you're, you know, fascinated by the magnetic tail cap and everything, after a while, if that wears off and your enthusiasm continues, you start to hear people say, hey, you know, Olight, you know, there's better options out there. And you're like, what do you mean? How could you fault the god Olight themselves, right? So, you know, all jokes aside, this is a perfect example of a light that I would suggest over that, and I'm gonna, you know, jump in and tell you why. So the first thing, you know, getting that out of the way, I like about this light is I like the overall design here. It's straightforward, pretty tool-tastic. There's not a lot going on, and I kind of like that. You know, some lights I feel like have like cutouts and vents and have like a stainless steel chassis of an aluminum chassis and blah, blah, blah. Or there's even new lights, I think, from Acebeam that you can fidget. You know, again, that might be your thing, and that's fine if it is. To me, I just like a little bit more of that tool-tastic, straightforward look, and this definitely has it. It has this vertical sort of texture area here, these heat fins on the back that might alleviate a little bit of temperature, and it has knurling right here on the bottom. It has a little surface here that sort of grabs your finger if you go to pull this out of the pocket. You know, simple magnetic tail. Simple textured rubber clicker on the top, and bezel as well. So not a lot going on, just really simple branding, let you know the direction of the battery. Not too bad, right? Next thing about this light that I like a lot is I like the user interface of this light a bunch. The reason why is because this light is kind of like a perfect step off of someone who would have an Olight. So, you know, when you get an Olight, the way it works, you know, as a lot of us know, you press and hold for moonlight, whether it's an S2R baton, you know, or again, it's a Purin or whatever. You press hold, you get your first option. Then you hold and it cycles up through 3 modes, and then it restarts to low. It doesn't go to moonlight, it goes low, medium, high. Then you click off, you press and hold again, goes back into moonlight. You double click for turbo, triple click for strobe. So you could hand this to them from an Olight and then immediately know how to use it, which I think is really, really great. So especially since that's kind of like a standard light that a lot of people get into. Now, moving into what I love right off of that, because there's a lot to love about this light, which I'll go over, is I love the fact that it's like the Olight user interface on steroids. So firstly, the first, things are simple, right? What we were talking about. One problem I have about Olight, and everybody's kind of complained about, is that when you press and hold on an Olight, and then you hold for like 3 seconds, it puts into lockout mode. So you click the top and it doesn't come on. But if you press into something on like a backpack and it just holds for 3 seconds, it takes it out of that mode, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. Here, they've done something a lot smarter. 4 clicks, you saw that double click here? You basically are in this lockout mode. So it double blinks, as you can see, then you know, hey, I'm in lockout mode. Doesn't matter, double click, press and hold in a backpack. You have a temporary on at moonlight, but that's it. There's nothing else if you press and hold. If it bumps into something, again, double click. To get it out, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're back in action. I think that's way smarter, way more, just makes sense. What's the likelihood of something in a backpack going 1, 2, 3, 4? It's just not going to happen, or in your pocket or whatever. So if that's important to lock out something on travel, or again, if you have this in some sort of like expedition or backpack, case carrying thing, it's great for that. So really, really dig that. Next thing that I love about it is the advanced modes in the triple click. So here is how the turbo looks. 1, 2, 3. You have an oscillating turbo of a really fast blink, as you can see, and a slow blink, which I think is a lot better of like a tactical mode, if because what else are you going to use a strobe for, right? So I think if you are going to do that to disorient, this is a great thing. The next thing that's cool though is this isn't the whole story. This light is really great because this can be used as an EDC light. It can be used as a light for outdoors as well, really good with these next modes. So if you press and hold like you would to normally cycle through the regular modes while you're in the specialty mode, the triple click to strobe, it turns into SOS. So if you were in a situation that was dire, that was a big thunder, you have this SOS now that's going off, and we'll just continue to cycle through that. Really, really cool. A mode that I think is super duper cool is the next one, especially if you were out camping and you wanted to walk down to, I don't know, like a river or something, and you had one of those water filter sort of Yetis that you can get water out of a creek or whatever if you were long-term staying outdoors or meeting up with somebody, whatever. You basically can go to the third mode, which is this beacon. So you could sit this on a log, put it at your tent, hang it up somewhere in a tree, whatever the case would be. Basically face it the direction, and it just gives you turbo, boom, short spurt. That's going to last a really, really long time because it's not constantly on. It's also going to put the light in any sort of distress as far as long-term heat, but it would help you find your way back to where you were at your campsite or a waypoint or whatever, a trailhead, whatever the case. I think that's so cool, especially when you take a look at the fact that this can be used as a headlamp, and then when you press and hold, it goes back into that oscillating strobe. So I absolutely love that it's kind of like that Olight UI juiced up and the problem sort of fixed and added benefits. Just absolutely amazing. The next thing that I do love about this light is the optic that's in it. So this uses a Samsung made LH351. So this is one of the more floody emitters that are available. One thing you might not know, and I didn't when starting into flashlights, is that there are different types of flashlights. Some that have a focused beam like a thrower, some that are sort of balanced, others that have a really wide angle of light. A flood, basically really good for sort of walking trails, searching for things in the house, EDC type tasks. A lot of people really like that flooding option. Doesn't go as far because it's being dispersed this way instead of being thrown down range, but for practicality reasons, it's really great for that. But what I didn't know as well is that different emitters have different characteristics. So for example, on one side you have the Osram W1, and other companies make thrower LEDs, but if you put this in the same reflector, it's going to throw really, really far. And then if you put something like this Samsung, it has a really wide distribution. Here's how the Sofirn compares to other lights, for example, and why I love the Samsung 351 that's in there. So over here you have a reflector from a Mini Pineapple, and as you can see, it has a defined small hotspot and then a sort of flood that's out here that's much lighter. This is the Maker E02 version 2. This actually has a TIR lens that has a sort of diffuser over the front. Looks like little honeycombs or little dots, and essentially that gives it a broad range, but it sort of fades into the flood instead of having a distinction. Now with the LH351 that's in the Sofirn, you can see that it has a clear hotspot, but look at this. Look at how large that is wide angle wise, which creates an extreme amount of flood. And then you also get a defined secondary layer on because it is a reflector instead of it blending in. So this has an insane flood for the light itself compared to even lights that have, floody fronts, like this sort of honeycomb shaped diffuser that I was talking about. So as you can see with those three lights, you can see the difference not only from a reflector standpoint, but you can also see it from the actual, LED. This is a reflector. It doesn't have some fancy honeycomb-shaped diffuser on the front that is making it have a flood. It's all the LED that's doing that, which is just absolutely incredible. And I love that. Also, it makes it where because it doesn't have that diffuser on the front, it still has a little bit of range that this uses. And that's another thing that I really like. It's such a well-balanced EDC light, but also able to be used in other parts of life. If you were, again, working construction or, I don't know, if you're a plant manager checking things out, I don't know what the situation would be, right? But this would have both flood and throw to be able to walk through, easily see, no problem. If you were outdoors, walking down a trail, no problem. If you were just, searching for, what fancy ass knife you were going to carry for the day in the morning, but you didn't want to turn on the lights, you could do that as well. You can use it for all different sort of points, and I think that that's why this is a great purchase, and one of the reasons I love this, because you have so many different things all in one to be able to use this and fulfill for most tasks, which I think if you're gonna kind of look for one light to do most of anything, it's good that it covers a lot of different bases, to be honest. The next thing that I absolutely love about this is the fact that this does use a common battery. So I've really gotten, came full circle, right, with my sort of flashlight journey. When I first started, like I said, I got a copper S2R baton 2 or something like that, or S1 baton, I think is what it was. It wasn't even the baton 2, all the way back, and it had a 123 CR or whatever, CR123, sorry, which are these little short fat batteries that are, you can kind of pick up at Lowe's, but they're not super duper common, right? And then, throughout time, you 18650 and, 2700 and all these different things. And then I've really realized recently that I love the idea to be able that I could just throw in, a rechargeable battery like this. I could throw in, a Duracell or an Energizer or something that I just picked up at Lowe's if my battery died, but I needed it in action, or, an emergency situation. If the hurricane came through, Florida and knocked out the electricity for a couple days, I could pull the battery from some remote or some kid's toy and get back in action to get through the night. So I really love that idea here that this is a AAA light, and even though that's the case, it produces a good amount of light that is usable both more than enough indoors as well as outdoors as well. And the fact of the matter is that it's really great with its thermal efficiency, so it will run that turbo and high mode really no problem with a AAA. You're getting about 250, almost 300 lumens out of that AAA. Match that with the case that if you don't care about the lower moonlight mode, which is something that's important to me, it's about 1 lumen, so it still is a little bright to be using to feed the baby, which is why I love the moonlight mode so much, is because of that fact. This is more of a usable moonlight, like in a dark room, you can fully see everything. It's not like you're peeping through a hole and you can barely see the light in front of you. It's that dim of a moonlight. So for most people, it's actually going to be perfect. But this can take a 14500. So this bad boy will be able to compete with the S2 R2, S1 R2 batons, all those different things, because it will pump out 1,000 lumens out of a 14500. Again though, if you actually run out of battery, you can just pop in a AA and finish the job. That's why it's so awesome, and why this meets so many criteria that just makes me love this light. The other thing that I absolutely love, and as you can kind of see through here, is the options of different LED temperatures. This is a 2700 Samsung emitter. And for the sort of common EDC use, right, I would more so say anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000 is where you're going to want to be. The 2700 is really a joy to use. Really puts no strain on your eyes, is great indoors, has this sort of like comforting feeling for me because it's the same, light temperature as like an indoor light. But the problem is you do lose a little bit of detail and a little bit of light efficiency when compared to something that has more white. So unless you like that sort of light as well, I would definitely go for something like a 4000, which is going to have just a hue of yellow, but still be mostly neutral white and have a high CRI, a color reproduction accuracy, or the 5000 would be, a little tinge of blue, but, still pretty neutral white dead in the middle. Those are really great options if you're looking and you're like, what's that 2700 and a 4000 and a 5000, right? That's what that is. It's basically the temperature of the light. So that's also another thing that I absolutely love, that you have all these different options. Also, number one thing to love is the price on this guy. This was $23. Now I got this one with the 2700. I have to order it off of AliExpress, which is one of those websites that, you kind of have to search around. There's like 5 different shops selling this, and you kind of have to be like, oh, am I ever going to get this thing, right? It's not like Amazon where you order it and in 2 days it's at your doorstep, right? Or some, good flashlight, company out there like, Batteries Express or, Kill Shot Flashlight, or some Killzone Flashlight is I think what it is, or something like that, or, Going Gear, whatever. So something to keep in mind, but they do have, I think, the 5000 Samsungs on Amazon ready to ship, right? And they are right in that sort of 25 and under range as well. This thing is an absolute steal. Not only does it come with the magnetic tail cap, and, it doesn't provide a battery, so that is something. But again, you're able to get the strap to it. You have the pocket clip, you have extra O-rings that comes with it. Really, really nice. All around, can't complain there. So that's all the things I love about this light. Getting into the things that I dislike about this light. So the first thing, when I first got it, I kind of felt like the finishing on here was just, it felt a little bit more glossy and a little bit or a little bit more like slick, and it also sort of seemed, I guess, a little like cheaper feeling than something like this hard anodized, which is all like sort of flat, and doesn't look like there's any peaks or anything in here. It just looks like it's more bonded to the material, right? High-end anodizing, right? Overuse, I actually have come to, not mind it at all. I don't think that it is cheap, but if you were somebody who is a little bit of flashlight snob, that might be something that you kind of pick up on. It hasn't really worn at all. It's been pretty tough. It even like fell into something the other day, and it barely dinged just that one part. It hasn't started flaking around that. So I think there's no sort of problem here whatsoever. Just something I wanted to point out, honestly, because that is something I saw. Next thing is the pocket clip. It's not winning any awards. It's not bad, right? But it's not super deep. It stops right about here, which isn't awful in the pocket, to be honest. But I do like it where, it generally, goes the whole entire way down. It's also kind of one direction, right? Down in the pocket. Some people like it to have bi-direction also. If you pull it out of your pocket, you just rotate around and bang. Your button's right there. You pull it out. Psh. With this, it's basically just down direction. You do have this dual-sided thing, but that's what it's going to be doing in the pocket, which is just ridiculous, right? Everything's exposed, nothing is protected. So it's just something that's not, really great. Also, because it has this big ridge here, even though they did try to put like a ramp down, it sort of catches and you sort of have to pull the light back and like do it a couple times to get it in there. It's not just like hey, I don't even think about it, bang, it's in the pocket, right? Also, the other thing that I don't like about it is the fact that it freely moves back and forth extremely easy. Now, I actually fixed this by cutting two little tiny pieces of Velcro, cutting it, putting it in here, and putting it down in there, and it has stopped it from doing as such. So that was able to solve that problem, but again, it doesn't come like that from factory. That's just something I decided to try, and it worked perfectly. So, just something to keep in mind if you don't like that. I don't like it because it scratches the surface here, and I like to keep my stuff looking pretty pristine. The next thing that I don't like is with the user interface here, when you actually touch the button, you have to press and hold, and it just seems like it's like an nth of a second too long, right? Like I'll press and hold, and then I'll release, and it actually goes to low mode because I didn't press and hold enough where it actually turned on Moonlight. It's like, okay, I should be good. Oh, that's low mode, or medium or high, whichever one I had it in last, since it has memory. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. You have to kind of 0, 1, and then it finally comes on. While a lot of other lights, if you press and hold, boom, it's on. It's just a little quicker. So just something to kind of keep in mind, especially if you want to get in the action right away, but you need that Moonlight mode. It's just that nth a little bit slower, which is something I've noticed that I don't like on certain Olights, so it is something that also kind of exists here. The last thing is that with the button, I haven't really had a super big problem, but there is a way to like light press it. As you can see there, it made the click noise, but it didn't turn on, right? Which might actually be a good thing if you bump into something for a microsecond. Maybe that is a safety, but you do have to not really push it hard, but you just sort of want to full press it, right? Again, I'm not doing anything that's hard or uncomfortable or awkward, but I have just found myself like go and click it on, and maybe it doesn't click that one time. It's not like one of my MSRs that I've had that actually has a defective button that sometimes just doesn't work and you have to click it twice. This is just I'm not pressing hard enough, but again, it's enough that it has created a problem and something to keep in mind. Overall, with this light, I don't really think that there's anything that's rubbish. The only thing is there was a speck of dirt that has come from the factory underneath the lens. Again, it really doesn't hurt the light's performance in any sort of way, so I've just sort of come to live with it. But if that sort of thing bothers you, you could take the top off, but honestly, you shouldn't even get to that point. But this isn't the first light that I've had. I've had through nights and things like that have also had, media underneath the lens. And it's just something to expect, especially because, this light is cheap. Nobody's, making this you know, slowly and with the most in detail. It's a quality product, and everything that's there is that needs to be there is there, but you know, you have to save money somewhere. So something to keep in mind. So overall, this light meets a perfect criteria of a EDC light through and through as a tool. It's cheap, so if you take care of it, it's gonna last. But it value oriented, not cheap in manufacturing, but it's actually value oriented at under $25. So if you did lose it, if you broke it, you know, you shouldn't be so heartbroken, if that makes any sense. Not that you would purposely ever abuse your stuff. You know, it has a great wide variety of rolls, and also, you know, sort of customization with the light temperature, you know, to kind of find what you want. If you want high performance, you can go on the bluer side. If you want something that is right in the middle, you can go in that 4,000 to 5,000, and you can even go as low as what I have here at the 2,700. You just sort of pick your poison. You know, it has a great balance with having a reflector, which produces a little bit more throw with that defined hotspot as well. But because it is the Samsung, it is a huge defined hotspot, and you even have an outer ring as well of flood. The only thing that I would also just mention that I don't like is in that flood, it's so big that there's a point that there's a black line, and then outside of that point, a little bit more light. Looks a little awkward, and if that sort of thing bothers you because it wasn't perfectly optimized on the very edge, just something to keep in mind. It doesn't hinder the performance at all. The performance is there in spades, so for me, I've learned to live with it, but mileage may vary. But yeah, other than that, you got AAA. You have the option to use the sort of powerhouse 14500 lithium stuff. This thing will chew anything that you put in it. So really, really great just from the day-to-day. It comes with the head strap, so you can end up using it as an actual headlamp. Has a magnet, so you can put it on things, you know, do work, stuff like that. And overall, I just think it meets so many great characteristics of almost what is the perfect EDC light, and for most people it will be the perfect EDC light. Like I said, I have some weirdness with everything with the low light of the baby and stuff like that, which a lot of people might not care about. I recommend this 100%, and this is just a perfect example when a light from Olight cost about $60, $65 for the Baton that has similar Baton 3 that has similar performance to this. This guy's $25 and has more usability and features. So I love making content about this and, you know, finding these little nuggets. Hope you did too. If you did like it, go ahead and give a like down below, as well as hit that subscribe button, as it super does help. Of course, I also appreciate you taking time to watch this video, as there's so many other great content creators that you could be watching, and you've picked on my little great channel over here. I really, really do appreciate it. Of course, I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. And if you have any comments, go ahead and comment down below. Everybody, take care. Peace.